There are now 7 billion people living on our planet. Our numbers are rising every day. Humanity is on the brink of overload. Already, there are a few places on Earth that give us a glimpse of the future. Test cases for whether we'll be able to cope. These are the world's busiest. Hong Kong International Airport. Gateway to China, the world's hungriest economic giant. In the next 24 hours, this airport will process more passengers, cargo and planes than anywhere else in the world. Up to 63 planes an hour, more than one a minute.
A very small hiccups will bring in some snowball effect.
It's just a packed schedule every day.
Everything has to work like clockwork as frontline staff battle missing containers, frantic passengers, relentless deadlines. The least error can have fatal consequences. And all on a man-made island in the middle of a typhoon zone. This is 24 hours in the life of Hong Kong International, the world's busiest airport. (1:01 a.m.) Korean Airlines cargo flight K210 has just landed. For cargo supervisor Stephen Tang, the clock is ticking. He's got just 120 minutes to turn this plane round and get it back in the sky.
I like this kind of busy, and I like this kind of challenge.
The Korean flight is a Boeing 747-400 air freighter, one of the biggest cargo planes in the sky. Stephen and his team have got to get 124 tons of cargo off and another 124 tons loaded. And this is just the first of 150 planes that'll come through the world's busiest airport tonight. That's 1 in 5 of the world's cargo aircraft. Hong Kong International shifts 4 million tons of cargo a year, more than anywhere else on Earth. Things we all buy, smartphones and laptops, shoes and seafood. There are 34 cargo bays, and right now, everyone is full. Stephen knows the smallest delay for his flight will trigger a cascade of knock-on effects. That's the pressure of working at the world's busiest airport. His team is a small but crucial cog in a massive machine. If Stephen's going to make his unmissable deadline, he needs this plane unloaded, fast. His man on the front line in warehouse ops is Maka Chuk. Maka's been doing this for 20 years. No details too small for his constant attention.
I'm a busy man. There is no quiet time. This is always busy.
Each consignment of the new arrival is broken down into its individual boxes. From just this one plane, Maka's got to deal with 8,000 different items. And everyone has to be sent on to the right destination. And there are plenty more planes to come tonight. 2:05 a.m. While Maka's making good progress unloading the plane, back in the control room, Stephen spots a problem. The plane's next cargo is 43 containers, weighing up to 4 tons each. Destination, New York. But some of them aren't where they should be.
Every day there are last-minute changes, and every day they are different.
Stephen double-checks the order in the system. This is a high-security zone. Every item of cargo is individually logged and identified. The system is telling him 10 containers aren't ready, but it's not telling him where to find them.
When the flight number is in red, that means the handling of this flight is not yet complete.
Stephen's team now have 55 minutes to take off. While Stephen has to worry about getting the plane loaded before his deadline, it's air traffic controller Samuel Ng's job to get it back into the air on time. Samuel needs to keep flights in and out of the airport, known as movements, working at full capacity. And he's not going to allow this plane to derail the schedule.
In 1 hour, how many movements can we accommodate within this hour?
Each flight has a strict time allocated to it, known as a slot.
We have 63 slots. All operators, if they wish to operate at the Hong Kong International Airport, they have to apply for a slot.
Tonight, the Korean Airlines flight has a takeoff slot at 3 a.m.
If you do not follow a slot this time, the next time when you try to bid for a slot, you will have a lower priority.
If the flight is delayed, the airline will be punished and the delivery will be late. But it could also cause a backlog that would impact on every flight in the schedule. Stephen and the cargo team feel the pressure. He has to get the plane loaded in time to hit its slot. The minutes are ticking away. (2:15 a.m.) In the operations room, Stephen initiates one last search. Everything at the world's busiest airport now comes down to 10 lost boxes. On the ground, his team starts the reloading process. The skill is to use every inch of the aircraft for maximum payload. Automated systems lift and turn the cargo pallets into position like a 3D jigsaw. For now, they can only leave space for the late containers. Until they're found, the cargo isn't complete, and this plane is going nowhere. Finally, deep within the vast 6-story cargo terminal, among the 3,500 individual loads, the system identifies the boxes by their electronic tags. But processing them will take precious time. They need to get on that plane without delay. Stephen puts his best driver on the job. Richard has 15 years' experience moving cargo across the airport.
This is the busy place and I'm busy all the time.
Like everyone else, he feels the pressure not to miss their takeoff slot.
When there is last minute change, we will do it more quickly.
At the world's busiest airport, even the cargo handlers get stuck in traffic. There's no guarantee that he'll make the delivery in time. With just minutes to spare, Richard gets the containers to the plane. It's 2:55 a.m. It looks like the Korean freighter is going to pull back from the stand just on time. Tonight, the Korean Air cargo flight to Seoul won't be missing its slot. One down. Only another 149 planes to go for Stephen's cargo team. In the darkness, Stephen and the cargo team have the airport almost to themselves. But while most of the world's great cargo airports stick to cargo, at Hong Kong, they don't just deal with tens of millions of items of air freight a year. 53 million people come through the passenger terminal as well. Add them together, and it's the busiest airport in the world. Every individual and every process has to keep working at peak efficiency, or the whole operation could grind to a halt. As day dawns, on the other side of the airport, things are just getting started. In the main terminal, they'll be loading the trickiest cargo of all: people. 150,000 of them every single day. "7:38 a.m. Samuel Ng is the point man at Air Traffic Control, Hong Kong International Airport.
There are just continuous streams of arrival coming down.
Samuel has been running the skies over the airport since midnight. Now, it's his job to bring Cathay Pacific flight CX432 from Taipei onto the ground safely. As the massive jet approaches the runway, Samuel double-checks every detail.
When the traffic builds up from time to time, which it does, if you need to handle something really urgently, then you will feel the pressure.
At the world's busiest airport, you might think that the aircraft has been assigned its gate or its stand long before it hits the runway. But that's not how it works. Where precisely this plane lands and how hard it brakes determines where it will eventually park. This doesn't make Samuel's life easy.
Not all aircraft vacate at exactly the same point. Sometimes they go further. Sometimes they would vacate a bit earlier. So what if the airplane suddenly stops on the runway after landing? What if it goes further than you think?
Only as the plane comes to a halt on the runway can the team in the tower start the process of dynamically assigning it a gate.
Then I have to instruct them to leave the runway and change them over to the ground control.
7:42 a.m. At ground control, that becomes Wing Yung's headache. Wing has to work out where to park the aircraft, juggling a stack of variables and priorities. In a high-tech city, at one of the world's most cutting-edge airports, safety comes down to this. Workstations that look like a giant board game. Counters shifted around the board until they slot together perfectly. Blocks stacked and moved, each one representing $100 million worth of plane. Every movement here mirrored by the giants out on the tarmac, jostling for gates and takeoff slots.
Everything seems so smooth, okay? But we have to keep alert.
This is directing traffic with the highest possible stakes. An error would be unimaginably costly and dangerous. And the world's busiest schedule is constantly demanding. So while they have a state-of-the-art computerized system to help, they're not abandoning the old-fashioned way anytime soon. Finally, Wing solves the puzzle of flight CX432, and the plane finds a stand at gate 30. At Hong Kong International, he has to get his calculations right 500 times every day. Now, the flight has just 60 minutes until it has to be back in the air. While the airside team at gate 30 are up against the clock, inside the terminal, another team have to cope with getting 300 passengers to their plane on time. And that can be even harder.
Every day we have 150,000 people. So a very small hiccups will bring in some snowball effect.
7:59 a.m. Passenger rush hour at the world's busiest airport. In 3 hours, 25,000 people will check in at 380 desks and board 138 planes. For passengers, it should be a stress-free experience. And today, as duty manager, it's Percy Lowe's job to make sure of it.
This is hard time because most people usually choose the flight as early as possible. People everywhere.
Percy and his team are constantly on the move, heading off everything from health emergencies to shoplifters, from lost children to suspicious packages. He makes sure nothing interferes with the 1,000 planes that need to take off and land today.
On the normal day, we handle around 150,000 passengers.
Sometimes it's life and death. But when you're the world's busiest airport, even a minor problem can cause the system to seize.
Sometimes it's not easy to fix.
But this time, Percy's in luck, and the mobile phone is right where it should be, in lost property. This time, he can solve the problem and move on. But Percy doesn't just have to worry about keeping passengers flowing smoothly. The whole airport is a high security zone. Armed backup is never far away. And sometimes it's all too necessary. On the 31st of July 2000, an armed man forced his way through a security checkpoint, took a woman hostage and boarded an aircraft, demanding political asylum. After 2 hours of negotiations, he surrendered to the police. It was a narrow escape. One that's always in the back of Percy's mind. At the world's busiest airport, the least security threat means disastrous delay, if nothing worse. (8:04 a.m.)
I know how many check-in bags you'd like to check it in today. 2 bags.
As the morning rush picks up pace, the priority is getting passengers onto planes. Delayed passengers means delayed planes, and the whole machine could seize up.
The latest passenger can check in at the counter is 40 minutes before departure.
But it's up to them to get to the gate on time. As Percy knows only too well, the unprecedented level of pressure can easily prove too much for some.
I don't know what will happen in the next minute. My team and myself always have to prepare to handle or to deal with any special thing.
Percy's colleagues try to subdue the distraught woman. But when a flight's closed, it's closed.
From the passenger side, they will say, why you as an airport authority person, you cannot offer any help.
It's a reminder of just how close to the edge Hong Kong International has to operate. (8:15 a.m.) Checked-in passengers for the Cathay Pacific flight to Beijing begin crowding into one of the longest concourses in the world. Behind the scenes at Airfield Ops HQ, for Wing and his team, the pressure is mounting. The plane has been on the ground for 20 minutes. They've only got 40 left to get it back in the air. It's not just their slot on the runway that's looming. Parking space at the world's busiest airport is paid for by the hour. And if they overrun, that's another $15,000. Turning round a passenger plane is a whole lot more complex than a cargo plane. The moment the plane landed, the luggage came off and catering unloaded their empties. Now, maintenance and cleaning move in. 14 cleaners have to scrub every inch of the plane in only 16 minutes, over 300 seats and 10 toilets. The galley has to be filled with 367 meals in 1,400 plastic dishes, 700 bags of nuts and enough drinking water to fill a large paddling pool. Passengers begin to queue on the other side of the gate. Fuel is pumped in, 1,000 gallons a minute, 40 minutes to fill a 777. Handlers load up another plane full of luggage as the cleaners hurry to disembark. The plane is ready for boarding. And just minutes later, the plane is on its way to Beijing. Just one of the 126 planes that will pass through this same point in the sky over Hong Kong International in the next 2 hours. It's 10 a.m. The morning passenger rush is finally subsiding, but at the world's busiest airport, the pressure is relentless. And it's not just people providing the stress. Here, in Typhoon Alley, nature herself does her best to make things difficult. Hong Kong International, the world's busiest airport. It's already outgrown its city once. Here in Hong Kong, they didn't just build a new airport. They built a brand new man-made island to house it, called Chep Lap Kok. This was meant to be a radical, permanent solution to overcrowding. But now, it's bursting at the seams. 20 years to go from miracle solution to the edge of overload. It was the early 1990s. Hong Kong had established itself as a key global hub where the world's trade routes collide. But it had a problem. Its airport, Kai Tak, was widely known as the most dangerous in the world. Crammed into the center of the city, planes thundered overhead, endangering citizens. Every arrival, a white-knuckle ride. In 1993, a China Airlines 747 was hit by a sudden gusting 38-knot wind. It overshot the runway, injuring 22 people. Hong Kong had outgrown Kai Tak. It desperately needed a new airport. In a city where every inch was already full, the answer, the sea. In 1991, 25 miles from the city, engineers began building an island by reclaiming land, 10 square kilometers of it. 56,000 tons of explosives moved 10 tons of earth every second. A man-made island emerged from the water. Completed in just 7 years. When it opened in 1998, it was the most expensive airport ever built, costing over £10 billion. But building the airport was only half the story. Making it work would prove to be just as big a challenge. Opening day, the 6th of July, 1998. First, flight information shut down, so passengers weren't getting to planes. Then, the baggage system fell apart. Finally, cargo handling systems broke. Every part of the airport system had failed. It couldn't be allowed to happen again. But although they solved the first day teething problems, the pressure on Chet Blap Cock hasn't got better. It's got worse. 15 short years later, even the world's busiest airport on its own miracle island isn't enough. The two runways cater to over 100 airlines running to 160 destinations. Up to 63 an hour, over 1,000 flights a day. The world's busiest airport has hit capacity. And still, Hong Kong needs more. There'll be a third runway, another massive cargo terminal. But for now, the team at the airport have to do the impossible, and they can't afford to drop their guard for a moment. (11:13 a.m.) The cargo terminal. Supervisor Stephen Tang is now 11 hours into the busiest air cargo shift the world has to offer. Before he goes home, he'll have seen 10,000 tons of freight.
We can handle all kinds of cargo, include valuable cargo, oversized cargo, dangerous materials, livestock. We handle it all.
Down on the floor, Maka Chuk is used to the strangest cargoes. From high-security armoured vehicles full of gold and jewellery to highly strung racehorses for Hong Kong's Happy Valley. But there's one cargo that really sticks in his mind.
The hardest cargo would be the Lady Gaga show.
Staging Lady Gaga's concert in Hong Kong in 2012 involved Maka handling 300 tons of props and equipment.
There are pre-loaded stage cargo for her concert.
An entire air freight container of clothes and a collapsible castle. 12:10 p.m. Stephen and Maka's day takes a turn for the worse, and then some. Stephen is personally supervising the loading of an express mail carrier when he gets the news. A Cathay Pacific cargo plane has been bumped up the schedules.
One reason of a last-minute change will be change of flight schedule.
There's no spare capacity at the world's busiest airport. No one else to take over the job. Stephen and his team live at the mercy of the airlines, and no one asks them about schedule changes. This is their biggest headache. They've got two planes to load simultaneously that will take off just minutes apart. Between them, they will swallow up over 200 tons of cargo.
When we get a last-minute change, we have to work more quickly and deploy extra manpower.
Like it or not, they just have to cope. To add to the confusion, an unusual shipment arrives that Maka has to deal with urgently. Now, on top of the two huge planes, they've got to deal with a consignment of live lobsters for restaurants on the mainland, and everyone needs to keep their cool.
When the seafood arrives, the trucker also arrives. We need to keep the fresh, and so we must move the shipment very quickly.
Maka calmly gets the lobsters on the road and gets back to the flight he's loading. Now he needs Stephen's urgent cargo containers, and he has an incredible machine to help him. They're currently sitting somewhere inside the vast Super Terminal 1, the world's biggest air freight terminal, along with 10,000 other boxes.
When we receive the information from airlines, our staff will order the box from the box system.
This time, the fully automated system goes into operation just the way it's meant to. The 100-foot-high robot arms can retrieve any item in the terminal within 4.2 seconds, reading its unique identifier and delivering it to the correct cage. The system can handle 1,500 items an hour, ranging from 5 grams to over 13 tons. Macca and his cargo team on the warehouse floor are waiting as the machine presents them with the first container. They prioritize the express flight.
Express cargo, we just have 10 to 15 minutes to build it.
As they've been doing since the early hours of the morning, Macca's handlers build the boxes into loads, curved to fit the inside of the fuselage of the waiting aircraft. Whatever the schedule throws at them, they're determined not to be the weak link in the chain. (1:01 p.m.) It's already been a long day for driver Richard. He's nearing the end of his 12-hour shift. Macca's express containers are just his 100th urgent consignment of the day. But with Richard's arrival at the cargo stand, both loads are completed with moments to spare. That's the way it is at the world's busiest airport. Everything and everybody is pushed to the absolute limit. The cargo team are just glad to see another pair of planes off their hands. But now, the schedule is in danger from something outside anyone's control. 5 p.m. Air traffic controller Samuel Ng is worried about the weather.
Because of the island, we are subject to some ground heat.
The ground heat causes rising air, generating crosswinds called wind shear. Sudden gusts catch pilots unaware, with sometimes deadly consequences.
Dragon 937 down off today, continue approach runway 25 right.
Air traffic control have to be ready to react fast.
Rule number 1 is you have to think steps ahead. So I have to make up some plans in my mind, plan A, plan B, plan C. So if plan A doesn't work, at the last minute, you just change over to plan C. It's something of immense pressure.
But Hong Kong Airport suffers from an even more terrifying weather threat. It's smack bang in the middle of a typhoon zone. And as day turns to night, a tropical storm is brewing. The airport is in the firing line. Wing Yung sounds the alarm.
It's highly unpredictable, and it could be very large scale.
Lightning. It's not a threat to the planes. Insulated by their metal skins, they are immune. Flights go on landing. But it's a different story for the ground crew. As soon as lightning hits, they are pulled off the tarmac. Baggage handling, refueling, cargo loading stop immediately. The airport grinds to a halt. Each plane that comes in just adds to the backlog. If the crews can't get back to work, the airport will have to start turning flights away. In the back of everyone's mind, a tropical storm that brought a lot more than lightning. The worst night in the airport's history. 6:37 p.m. on the 22nd of August 1999.
That was a very bad night. Very windy and rainy day.
A Force 8 typhoon was raging at Hong Kong Airport as China Airlines Flight 642 was trying to land. Moments from touchdown, all looked to be going well.
It's a bit shaky there.
Is it shaky?
Oh my God! It's crashed!
Oh my God.
Oh my God!
At the last few hundred feet, it rolled to one side and then inverted.
Fireman Tang was there on the night.
飛機發生火警，咁我哋知道個事態都好即刻好嚴重，即刻衝出車房，行到埋去咧，係根本睇唔到個火警喺邊度，因為好大，心喺度諗呢次死得人多。
They arrived to a scene of devastation.
見到咧架飛機就係反轉咗嘅，咁啊機翼咧就折斷咗嘅，咁我哋第一時間就即刻出泡啦，去灌救去掩護個機身啦。咁我哋就落地，咁啊進入機艙搜索㗎啦，背負煙霧㗎啦，同埋嗰啲係唔穩陣嘅，因為佢啲已經係嗰啲行李架啊已經係爛晒㗎啦。
睇到啲乘客嗰種驚惶失措嘅眼神咧，到而家咧我都忘記唔到嚇，因為佢哋真係實在好驚。
And there was a ball of fire engulfed the whole right side and came into the cabin. Then we rolled over and we were upside down. We released our seatbelts and scampered for the door.
Miraculously, of the 315 people on board, only 3 died. But at the world's busiest airport, the accident set off a cascade of consequences that could easily have become worse than the crash itself.
The problem is it blocked the runway.
At the moment of the crash on the south runway, there were 30 flights in the air, needing to land in the next hour.
At that time, we only have one runway operating.
Only the north runway was available, and dozens of flights were already lined up for takeoff. Dozens more planes needed to land, and soon. That's the problem with being the world's busiest airport. Air traffic controllers were in trouble. Immediately, 24 flights are cancelled. Everything in the air with enough fuel to divert does so. 124 planes go to nearby airports. Air traffic control start landing plane after plane on the one remaining runway. Everyone knows they could be facing an even worse emergency.
At that time, adrenaline just pumps up.
But with each plane that lands, they are closer to safety. It's the longest night of their lives. But at Hong Kong International, no more planes are going to crash tonight. The team made it. Today, they simulate a serious crash every year. They believe they are as well prepared for another disaster as any airport in the world. But tonight, with an electrical storm raging, even a normal night's minor disasters can push the world's busiest airport to the edge of breakdown. 6:58 p.m. Tonight, the weather is once again causing massive problems at the world's busiest airport. Planes can still land, but with ground crews in danger of being struck by lightning, the rest of the airport is at a standstill.
Some of the aircraft will not be able to get into the gate. Some of them cannot go until the lightning situation stops.
The baggage handling system has been shut down. With every plane that lands, another 1,000 bags arrive and join the mounting backlog.
That could mean delay to other aircraft because you know there's a knock-on effect.
It's the worst possible time for this to happen. 7 p.m. is right in the heart of the evening rush, when most international flights land at the airport. With every passing minute, more passengers are landing and joining the throng in the terminal. Without their bags, they are not going to be leaving the ever busier airport. There are thousands arriving and hundreds here to meet them. 7:41 p.m. In the storm-hit airport, Wing Yung's team anxiously monitor passenger movements with over 1,000 CCTV cameras.
They don't know where they can go and when they will be able to board an aircraft. There are like dozens of passengers stranded here.
The morning shift in the terminal was hard enough, but now the typhoon is making Angela Lowe's job out on the floor 100 times harder.
Her mom was supposedly flying with Cathay Pacific's flight from Perth, but her mom didn't show up.
More lost passengers, more stress, and chaos is never far away. With extreme weather derailing the airport's schedules, Angela knows that one lady lost in the system is just the first of many coming her way tonight.
In case her mom approaches our counter, and then we can tell her that your daughter is looking for you. It's just a packed schedule every day.
Then, as quickly as it blew in, the storm passes, and Hong Kong's unrelenting airport machine comes back to life. Ground crews rush back to work to deal with the backlog. Bags are quick to flow into the system.
It's very complicated. I always said it's like a transformer machine.
The baggage conveyor belts are 33 kilometers long and able to process 16,000 bags every hour. That's 16,000 potential snags in the system. And after the storm, it has to work double time to catch up.
Some bags may be tilted and some bags may be jammed.
A lost or damaged bag means a late passenger. And that could mean gridlock. It takes 3 hours before the backlog of bags can be delivered to their owners. At last, the passengers can leave the airport. 11:48 p.m. The last passenger flight of the day takes off, London bound. For the staff at the main terminal, the day is over, and they can breathe a sigh of relief. But already, over at Super Terminal 1, Stephen and his team are back on the night shift, getting ready for another day's cargo rush. 1,500 trucks are waiting outside the airport with cargo for the world.
Every day we handle up to 1,000 flights. That makes us to be the busiest in the world.
As the clocks tick over to midnight, the day ends. And tomorrow, Hong Kong International Airport and the people who keep it running will do it all over again.